Morning to all of you. Myself, Dr. Pinkal Patel, HOD and Associate Professor, Faculty of Pharmacy, Parul Institute of Pharmacy and Research, Parul University. I take this pleasure to welcome Dr. Bimal Shah, Professor in Dukaka Ichwala College of Pharmacy, Vidyanagar, for today's webinar on criticality of stability indicating Hptlc method development. Dr. Bimal Shah has more than 19 years of teaching experience. His research area of interest are design and synthesis of medicinal agents, analytical method development and validation, impurity profiling, bioanalytical method development and validation. Sir has more than 83 research and review paper published in reputed Indian and international journals. Sir has presented a paper as well as the various posters at international, national and state level conference and received several awards for the best oral as well as poster presentation. Sir has guided 28 PG students, 2 students pursuing PhD under his supervision. Sir has handled industrial project as well as received industrial project as well as consultancy grant. So now with this introduction, I request Dr. Bimal Shah to start the webinar.
Thank you very much, madam, for nice introduction and inviting me to deliver my talk at Parul Institute of Pharmacy. Let me share my screen. It is already, I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the topic that has been given to me, or the topic that I have selected, is criticality of stability indicating Hptlc method development. Before I start with this Hptlc method development, one thing, just a minute. One thing that I just want to share before I go with the stability indicating Hptlc method development about the applicability of Hptlc and why Hptlc is gaining popularity nowadays. Okay, so it is basically a thin layer chromatography. We normally call it as a planar or flat bed chromatography, and in this flat bed chromatography, the separation is achieved on high performance layers with detection and data acquisition using advanced workstation. Ready-made pre-coated plates are also available with a particle size of 5 to 7 micron and with a layer of thickness of 150 to 200 microns. Due to this reduction in thickness of the layer, increased efficiency as well as nature of separation is achieved. So that is the base advantage of Hptlc that we are getting nowadays. We are having a ready-made plates, and that ready-made plate offers advantage of reproducibility and reduced particle size. So due to that, more surface area will be available and better separation can be achieved. So separation on high performance thin layer plate gives sharper and more compact band with shorter distance of migration. So that another advantage that we can achieve. And due to these advantages, almost more than 700 pharmaceutical formulations, which are documented in USP, almost 43% of the procedures are documented by thin layer chromatography. So thin layer chromatography is gaining popularity. It is giving a competitive advantage over Hptlc. Fine. Again, if you look at the advantages of Hptlc, it's a high-speed quantitative analysis. Yes, within 30 minutes, when you run a sample, you can finish off analysis of more than 5 to 7 samples. So that is another advantage of Hptlc that we are getting. Another is flexibility of analysis of different sample concurrently. You can put, as I said, you can put at least 5 to 7 samples on a 10 centimeter plate. Okay, so 7 samples can be analyzed at a time within 40 minutes. So that is the biggest advantage that you are getting. Running cost is very low. See, you need only 10 to 20 ml of mobile phase. That is enough. And you need a plate. So running cost of a sample is very low. Recurring expenditure are very low. That is the biggest advantage of Hptlc. If we talk of Hptlc, the amount of Hptlc solvent required is very high. We need liters of solvent of HPLC grade to run HPLC system. While in case of Hptlc, only 20 ml of mobile phase is enough. Okay, so the running cost, yes, definitely. If we talk of cost of instruments, HPLC comes around 15 to 17 lakhs, while Hptlc comes around 35 lakhs. Okay, so cost-wise, instrument is costly, but once it is there with you, the recurring expenditure will be very minimum. The another biggest advantage that we are getting with Hptlc is sample cleanup is minimum. Yes, you can put any sample on HPTLC plate. That is not possible in case of HPLC. We need to extract our compound. We need to extract our sample from biological fluid or any other thing, and then we have to carry out the analysis, because otherwise it will clog the column in HPLC. That is not the situation in case of HPTLC. Definitely, sample cleanup is required, but minimum is sufficient. In terms of accuracy, precision, and sensitivity, HPTLC and HPLC both are comparable. So that advantage that we are getting. Okay. Even for identification and visualization of separated compounds, you can go with a pre-derivatization or post-derivatization. And that is the biggest advantage that we are getting in HPTLC. Okay. So pre and post chromatographic derivatization are possible, and visualization can be carried out easily. That is the biggest advantage of HPTLC that we are getting. Your 100% of the sample is accountable. And these method and instrument comply with the good laboratory practice and good analytical laboratory practice. So that shows the popularity of HPTLC. Okay. Now, two more advantages if we discuss is cost for maintenance is comparatively low, as I already said. Much skill is not required in case of HPTLC, because software is, you can say that, user friendly. In case of HPLC, like if you are operating a Perkin-Elmer, you need a thorough training on how to use a software. If you are using a Waters, you need a thorough training how to use HPLC Waters. Fine. While in case of HPTLC, it's a user-friendly software where we can call it as a semi-automatic operation, where something are manual and something are through instrument. Okay, so not much practical skills are much skills are required. A simple technique can be easily adopted for the analysis of a sample. Fine. So with these advantages of HPTLC, let's move to the development of HPTLC method. The first thing that we need to carry out is we have to finalize our mobile phase for HPTLC separation. And the major factor to be considered for the separation of the mobile phase is polarity of solvent. Okay. Separation in HPTLC is carried out by selecting a mobile phase or a solvent based on their polarity. Normally, when we start with a method development, we should first start with a single solvent as a mobile phase. Go on increasing the polarity, okay, and check where you are getting the RF value. What is the nature of the spot, whether it is a compact spot or whether there's a tailing or broadening of a spot. Okay, so based on that, first you take a trial in a single mobile phase or single solvent as a mobile phase, and then based on the desired RF value, you can combine two solvent as a mobile phase. The another thing that you can use is you can add either ammonia or triethylamine or acetic acid to maintain particular pH. Okay, but the amount of such agent should be minimal. Okay. Normally in mobile phase, the solvent composition is expressed in terms of volume by volume, like methanol water 9:2 volume by volume. Okay. And the component of the mobile phase should be measured separately and then placed in a mixing vessel. Instead of directly adding in a twin trough chamber, you can use a beaker where you can mix 2 or 3 solvent that you are using as a mobile phase, and then you can directly add it to the twin trough chamber. Normally, twin trough chamber are preferred for as a chamber in HPTLC. The reason is very obvious that the volume of mobile phase required is very low. Second, it is easy to saturate twin trough chamber. So different components of the mobile phase should be first mixed in a mixing vessel and then introduced into the developing chamber. So this is our developing chamber. Yes, at a laboratory level, we are using a beaker, which is the lid is closed with a tile or any other thing or a glass tile. Same way, there is a ready twin trough chambers are also available. See, normally a problem that arises is when we are practically working, we are developing our method in a beaker or separate mobile phase chamber. But when you actually work on a Hptlc instrument, you are going to use a twin trough chamber. Fine. So there are chances that whatever the data, whatever the result that you are getting with a beaker as a mobile phase chamber, it may not be reproducible in a twin trough chamber because the actual volume of the chamber will differ, the size of the chamber will differ, and due to that, reproducibility is a big problem. So my advice is, whenever you go with Hptlc method development, use the same mobile phase chamber which you are using or which you are going to use in an instrument. Okay, so when you are going to work on an instrument, if you are going to use a twin trough chamber, better you start initial development in twin trough chamber only. Otherwise, there are chances of reproducibility which may arise. Yes, it can be avoided, and these are minimum. What I can say that reproducibility problem that can also be surpassed. Fine. So first thing that we have to carry out is our optimization of the mobile phase. And as I said, you can select a solvent for a mobile phase based on a polarity. Initially, you can start with a single solvent, like having a low polarity. You can start with a hexane, cyclohexane, toluene, benzene, and slowly, gradually, you can go on increasing the polarity of a solvent. And at last, you can take methanol also. Fine. So just taking a trial of 7 to 8 single solvent, you will come to know about the nature of the compound, where you are getting RFLU, and what is the compactness of the band. Now, based on that, you can mix two solvent to have a desired RFLU. Okay, when you are separating a mixture, this problem arises a lot because you need a separation between two component, and that can only be achieved by mixing two solvents. Single solvent normally do not give a desired result. Now, after mobile phase selection, the next thing that comes is chamber saturation. Now, what are the critical point that causes effect on accuracy and reproducibility of your result? The another problem, one problem that I already mentioned is the chamber dimension. The second is chamber saturation. Chamber saturation is essential aspect. And normally we carry out chamber saturation by putting a filter paper inside the chamber. So normally we fill a mobile phase and then we dip a simple filter paper in this mobile phase and we'll put it in such a way that one end of the filter paper remains outside of the chamber. So in that way, we carry out a chamber saturation. We allow the mobile phase to run in an ascending mode up to the chamber top. Okay. And then we presume that the chamber is saturated. Suppose your chamber is not properly saturated, what will happen? It will give you a age effect or a smile effect. You can just observe in this slide or a photograph there, the spot which has run towards the edges, they are close to the top, while the spot which are in the middle are somewhat low. Okay, this is called as a smile effect or age effect. And due to that, your RF value, your separation will vary. So to avoid this smile effect or age effect, we should carry out a chamber saturation. And chamber saturation should be considered as one of the critical parameter in Hptlc method development. Suppose you require 30 minutes, carry out a trial at plus or minus 5 minutes. Okay, 25 or 35, and check that is there any effect on the development of a plate or not. Okay, so chamber saturation is an essential aspect and we should take care of these aspects in a proper way. Okay. So The another important aspect is our chamber saturation, and we should take care of this portion. Fine. Now, after chamber saturation, the next stage that comes is selection of a stationary phase. There are two types of plates that we can use. We can have a handmade plate. Normally, all of us have prepared handmade plates in our medicinal chemistry lab, where on a glass plate, we are putting a silica gel G by either dipping or spreading or spraying method. Okay. We dry it in an oven and we use this plate for the TLC development. The second thing that normally we use in Hptlc is pre-coated plates, because we want reproducible and accurate result, and for that purpose we need a pre-coated plate where the thickness of the layer is fixed, the particle size of the stationary phase is fixed, so that we can get a reproducible and accurate result. So these pre-coated plates are available in the market, where glass support is used, or a polyester sheet is used, or aluminum sheet is used. Normally, aluminum sheet pre-coated plates are widely used, uh, and the available pre-coated plates are silica gel 60F, cellulose, aluminum oxide, micropolyamide, silica gel modified with amino, cyano, or diol group. So these are the different stationary phases which are available. But normally, I found that we normally go with a silica gel 60F 254, fluorescent plates which are available. And we normally prefer these plates for the development. Okay. Now, there are certain precautions that we need to observe with these plates also. We have to carry out pre-washing of these pre-coated plates. See, these plates are new, but over a period of time, this stationary plate absorb water vapors, impurities from the atmosphere, and volatile substances after packing. And these impurity gives a dirty zone, and it fails to give you reproducible result. Normally, we observe a dark band at the top of the solvent front. So that is because of the impurities, volatile substances, water vapors which are present in a plate. So it is better to pre-wash the new pre-coated plate before you start working. Okay, so it is recommended to clear the plate before the actual chromatography is carried out, and this step is called as a pre-washing. And we normally carry out by ascending or dipping, and which helps in removing these impurities and water vapors. Okay, normally pre-washing is carried out using a mobile phase that we are going to use. After pre-washing, this plate must be dried, and once it is air dried, and after that its activation to be carried out at 110 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes in an oven. The purpose is very much clear. We want to remove water which is physically adsorbed on the stationary phase. Okay, so if we want to remove the water which is physically present on that, we should carry out activation of pre-coated plates. The another purpose of activation of pre-coated plates is, normally we are using a silica gel plates, and if it has adsorbed water, in that condition water will form a hydrogen bond with a selenol group. So selenol group will not be available for reacting with your compound. So it is necessary to remove this water vapor, and that is being done by activation. And this activation is carried out in, as I said, in an oven at 110 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes. Many a times a question arises, when I am having a new plate, why should I carry out a pre-washing or activation? Friends, it is completely necessary to have a reproducible result, because we are not aware about the age of this plate. Yes, the plate is new, but it has been purchased last year, it has been manufactured last year, and how it is being stored, that's a big question mark. Okay, so instead of that, instead of taking any risk, better we should go with a pre-washing and activation step while we are working in these aspects. One more thing I forget to mention in chamber saturation. Normally, chamber saturation is carried out by dipping a filter paper inside a chamber, okay, containing a mobile phase. But the second option, to speed up the process of chamber saturation, we can do one thing is we can prepare a mobile phase separately, 10 ml, and then we can allow the mobile phase to pass over the filter paper and then dip that wet filter paper inside the chamber. So that will help in the chamber saturation easily. Okay, so that procedure can also be adopted for fast chamber saturation. Fine. Now, once your mobile phase, your stationary phase is ready, you can go with application of spot. This is a ChemAg Linomet 5 sample applicator where you are placing a TLC plate. By a programming, you are finding out the quantity of sample to be injected, and in this syringe you will fill your sample, and then you will apply your sample in the form of a band. Yes, your sample is applied in the form of a band. It has certain advantages. See, normally when we are working in a lab, we are using a capillary, and where we are applying a sample in the form of a spot. But here, sample is applied in the form of a band. The one advantage is it will be an even movement of your sample. Second, more quantity of sample can be applied. And third, better separation can be achieved. So sample application in the form of a band has certain advantages, and these advantages can be taken care by automatic TLC sample applicator. And once your sample is applied, you can go with a development of a TLC plate. Normally we prefer ascending mode of separation, but even circular and anti-circular methods can also be preferred. We want RF value of all the band between 0.2 to 0.8. If it is below 0.2, it means that your sample has not been separated by the mobile phase that you have selected. Just you are getting 0.1 RF value, it signifies that your sample has not been separated. And if you are getting RF value above 0.8, which signifies that your sample is moving along with the mobile phase. It means it is not getting separated. Normally in Hptlc, we use a term void volume. Like if you are getting RF value 0.9, 0.95, which means that it's a void volume. Okay, your sample is running along with the mobile phase, it is not getting separated. So always by reducing or by increasing polarity, suppose your RF value is low, in that case you can increase the polarity of the solvent. And if your RF value is too high, you can reduce the polarity of a solvent. So that advantage can be taken. The another thing that should be taken care is while mixing a solvent, make sure that both the solvents are miscible completely. Many times I have observed that we are working with a toluene and methanol or benzene and methanol, both are immiscible. Okay, so immiscible solvent should not be used in Hptlc for the separation. So that care has to be taken. So if we, from this discussion, if we identify the critical point for Hptlc separation is your mobile phase optimization, where polarity of a solvent is an critical factor, and the pH. Okay, what pH you are maintaining for the mobile phase. Second is chamber saturation time. If you are not providing sufficient time, your separation will be poor. Solvent front distance. Up to what height your mobile phase solvent are moving. Suppose I am having a 10 centimeter plate, and if I am allowing my solvent to run up to 8 centimeter, I am getting 8 centimeter length for the development. And if I am having a 10 centimeter plate and I am providing 10 centimeter height for the separation, it means that my sample can run up to 10 centimeter. So I am providing more area for the separation. I'll get better separation in that condition. Okay. So what is the solvent front distance you are providing? If I am providing 6 centimeter, my sample will get only 6 centimeter to get separated. And if I am providing 10 centimeter, my sample will get 10 centimeter to get separated. So solvent front distance also plays an important role. And obviously effect of temperature. Because many solvents are having more viscosity, and it will be difficult to run in an ascending mode with such solvent, or it is difficult to work with such solvent. So effect of temperature is also very much important. Many of you have observed that when we are working in a summer, we are getting a different result, different RF value. And when we are working in a winter like these days, we'll get a different kind of result, RF value. Okay. So reason is obvious that when a temperature is around 10 degree and when a temperature is around 50 degree, the vaporization of the mobile phase will be different, and due to that your result will also vary. So always try to work in a well regulated temperature laboratory. Fine. Now moving to stability indicating nature of a method. Uh, See, when we want to work for a stability indicating nature, what is our purpose? Why we want to carry out a force degradation study or stability studies? So if we define a degradation product, it is a chemical change in the drug molecule brought about over time and or by acting of light, temperature, pH or water, or by reaction with an excipient and or immediate container closure system. And we normally carry out the stability studies to determine the intrinsic stability of the molecule. We want to establish degradation pathway, by what way, which functional group or which bond is weak. Okay. So we want to find out the likely degradation pathway, the likely degradation product, and whether my method, my analytical method is sensitive enough to separate degradant as well as my drug. Okay. See, as an analyst, our role is very much clear. We want to develop a method which can detect drug as well as degradant, impurities, or any other thing which is present. Fine. So, for that purpose, we are performing a stress testing or a force degradation study. Now, as per ICH guideline Q1, stress testing is to be carried out on a single batch of material and to include the effect of temperature in 10-degree increment above the accelerated condition, humidity, oxidation, and photolysis on drug substance plus its susceptibility across wide pH range. Now, these 4 lines have been mentioned in ICH Q1A guideline. And by the interpretation of these 4 lines, we have to perform stress degradation study or forced degradation study. Fine. Different scientists, different analysts have tried in a different way. There are many books which have been written on how to perform a force degradation studies. There are many articles which are available how to perform a stress degradation study. But if we look at the basic concept, what ICH want to say is we should carry out a stress studies in such a way that your stressed condition produces at least 10 to 20% of degradation, or it represents a reasonable maximum condition achievable for drug substance. Okay, so what is our objective? We want to find out a method, or we want to have a method which can identify a drug and a degradant. And what amount of degradant? It should be more than 10%, but less than 90%. Okay. So your analytical method should separate degradant observed on stability. The another important thing is stress testing model should be realistic. Otherwise, excessive stress will lead to decomposition beyond primary degradation component. See, friends, when we are performing a stress studies, we normally start with a lower concentration of reagents. For example, zero point 0.1 normal HCl or 0.1 normal NaOH. We go on increasing up to 1 normal. Many a times we observe a paper where 5 normal HCl or 5 normal NaOH or a concentrated HCl or NaOH has also been used. Now, can it justify the use of high strength, high concentration of acid or base? Practically not. Because in any condition, your drug is not going to encounter such a high condition. Then there is no need to perform stress testing at such a high condition. We can report that our drug is stable up to 1 normal study, 2 normal study. There is no need to go beyond 1 normal or 2 normal, because otherwise it will not justify. See, if you are going to use a high normality or high strength of solids, acids or base, obviously your drug will get degraded, because in high strength like 5 normal or a concentrated condition, any drug which is considered to be the most stable drug will get degraded. Okay, but it is unrealistic. How will you justify the use of such a harsh condition? It cannot be justified, and there is no need to report such harsh condition also. Up to 1 normal, up to 2 normal, it is sufficient. Okay, and then you can report that your drug is found to be stable. That is enough. Okay, so that is one more precaution that we need to take. And the third most important thing is, once you had carried out forced degradation of your sample, then try to preserve that sample at or below 5 degrees Celsius before you perform analysis. Because many a times it may not happen that your sample, once the 1 hour is over of the study and you directly apply on the Hptlc plate, your Hptlc is not free and you are going to perform analyze on the another day. So for 24 hours, your sample remains in constant contact with such a harsh condition, and obviously it will create a degradation. Okay, so always try to preserve your sample at or below 5 degrees Celsius before you perform the actual analysis in Hptlc or Hplc also. Fine. And whenever possible, if you are going to use acid or base, try to neutralize the samples before you perform analysis. Okay, so that will also nullify the effect of acid or base. Now let's discuss the acid base stress testing. See, basically 4 types of stress testings are required: acid and base stress testing, second is oxidative stress testing, third is thermal stress testing, and fourth is photolytic. Okay, we need to carry out study in these 4 conditions, and we have to show that my spot is well resolved from the spot produced by impurity or degradant. Okay, so that separation I need to show in my method. So your acid-base stress testing, it is a stress degradation of drug substance to its degradation product by exposure to acid or basic condition over a period of time. Normally, functional groups like amides, esters, carbamates, imides, imines, alcohols are susceptible to acid or base hydrolysis. How to prepare your sample for acid-base degradation? Normally, we should try to dissolve your sample like 1 milligram per ml in 1 normal acid or base. Okay. Suppose your compound is not soluble in 1 normal acid or base, we can use a co-solvent, like we can dissolve it in a methanol and then we can add acid or base. So during experiment, how would be your sample? Drug plus acid, drug plus base, drug as it is. Acidic control, only 1 normal HCl you will take. Base control, only 1 normal NaOH you will take. Okay. And keep it at a room temperature for 24 hours. And on the next day, analyze this sample for any kind of degradation. If there is no degradation found, you can increase the period up to 48 hours, 72 hours. And still, if no degradation is observed, you can heat the mixture at 70 degrees Celsius, obviously plus or minus 5 degree, for 2 hours or up to 4 hours, not beyond that, because again, it will not get justified. Fine. And after that, you apply your sample on the TLC plate, run it, and check whether the degradation has been produced or not. And whether the degradation, if degradation has produced, whether the degradant is getting resolved with the drug peak or not. So, this is one experiment that we did last year, where a drug, remogliflozin, we started with a condition of 0.1 normal NaOH, and we heated this compound at 30 minutes for 70 degrees Celsius. This was the peak for my remogliflozin, but it was completely degraded into a degradant in a 30 minute. Okay, so what we did, we reduced this time. We make it to 5 minutes at room temperature. Okay, where I got a peak for my drug also as well as my degradant also, and both have been well resolved. Fine. So see, whenever you perform analysis, you'll come to know that your drug is unstable. It is getting completely converted into a degradant. Better you reduce this condition. Okay. So from a heating, we move to room temperature, and even we have reduced time also. And in this experiment, we carried out analysis by what way our drug is getting degraded, whether it is following a first order rate kinetic, second order kinetic, or zero order kinetic. So then we perform that kind of study also. Like every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes of interval, we took a sample and we analyzed the sample for the content. And then we found out the rate of degradation also, whether it is following a first order or zero order. Okay. So that is how you can adjust the situation, or you can adjust the concentration of the analyte as per the nature of the drug. Similarly, for the same drug, we started with an acid. This drug was highly stable in acid. There was no issue with acid. When we have heated at 15 minutes at 70 degrees Celsius, the drug was intact with a little quantity of degradant. Okay. So drug was susceptible to base even at room temperature, but it was quite stable in acid when it was heated also. Fine. The second type of study that we need to carry out is a thermal stress testing. What is the effect of temperature and humidity on the nature of sample, whether it gets degraded or not? Okay. So we normally should consider the Arrhenius expression. As per Arrhenius expression, every 10-degree rise in temperature, the rate of reaction almost doubles. Okay, so if we use this rule, at 1 year at 30 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 3 weeks at 70 degrees Celsius. So that is the yes. So this rule we need to apply that. As per Arrhenius rule, every 10-degree rise in temperature, the reaction rate almost doubles. So using this rule, 1 year at 30 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 3 weeks at 70 degrees Celsius. So when we are increasing the energy of the system, it may produce a product which is not seen under ICH stability guideline. Okay, because there is more energy available to reach the activation barrier to product that cannot be formed under ICH condition. So again, as I said, no need to go with a very harsh condition. In any method, during production also, during synthesis also, or even during production of a formulation also, your drug is not going to encounter such a harsh condition. So an optimum condition should be selected for this purpose. And normally 70 degrees Celsius, 30% relative humidity, which is normally called as a dry heat degradation, and 70 degrees Celsius, 75% relative humidity, which is called as a wet heat degradation, should be preferred. Yes, your time may vary from 1 hour to 4 hour to 24 hour, but that is enough to show the stability of your sample. And again, you can carry out an experiment in such a way by taking your sample at a different time interval, and you analyze your sample and check whether they are getting degraded or not. The third type of study that we should carry out is oxidative degradation. The purpose is obvious. We want to determine the primary oxidative degradation products, normally heteroatoms, benzylic site, aldehydes, ketones, which are susceptible to oxidation. So if your compound structure has these functional groups, we can get an idea that there are chances of oxidative degradation. Normally, this oxidative degradation basically occurs due to molecular oxygen. But to perform a study, we normally prefer hydrogen peroxide. We normally carry out this oxidative degradation by the use of 3% H2O2. Ideally, it is not a proper model. We should use a molecular oxygen. But due to unavailability of the oxygen supply at the institute, we normally prefer hydrogen peroxide. So this hydrogen peroxide is a non-productive model because it do not give idea about the molecular oxygen. See, there is a dissolved oxygen or the oxygen which is present in an atmosphere which is responsible for the degradation of the compound. Hydrogen peroxide is not an indicative of molecular oxygen. So normally this model is non-productive, but still we normally continue the study with hydrogen peroxide. And the another problem that normally arises with hydrogen peroxide is difficulty in quenching. We cannot quench this reaction. We cannot stop this reaction. Okay. So these are the two problems associated with the hydrogen peroxide, but we have to be careful while using hydrogen peroxide. Fine. So normally 3% hydrogen peroxide is used, and the study is carried out by taking a sample, adding a 3% hydrogen peroxide solution, keep it for 24 hours. If your drug do not get degraded, you can increase the period up to 1 week. Okay. Once the study is over, you should stop the reaction. And for stopping the reaction, we can add a quenchers like ascorbic acid or butylated hydroxyanisole or sodium sulfite. Because once the time period is over and the time of analysis, if there is a gap between these two, it is necessary to stop the reaction. And this reaction can only be stopped by adding antioxidant. Okay. So again, for the same drug, 3% H2O2 at a 30 minutes for 70 degrees Celsius, this study was carried out and we got a degradant. Yes, study at room temperature was also carried out, and this was the study that was performed at an elevated temperature. Even we can use EDTA also to quench the reaction, to stop the reaction. Okay. So this study should be carried out in these way: oxygen with initiator, oxygen without initiator, argon with initiator. It is considered as an inert gas. So what is the condition of your drug in presence of inert gas? That also we can check. Okay. Thermal control and initiator and oxidant without drug. Okay. So these are the model. These models should be adopted for performing a study. Instead of hydrogen peroxide, if we have a facility, we should go with molecular oxygen. Okay. And the time is 0 to 10 days. Yes. Now, a photostability study, the fourth kind of study that we should use is to force the degradation of drug via UV and fluorescent conditions. So, this photostability condition, where a light stress condition can induce photooxidation by free radical mechanism. Okay, and this photon excites the molecule that undergoes dissociation, and free radical which is formed is scavenged by molecular oxygen, and that initiates the entire photodegradation of a compound. Functional groups like carbonyl, nitroaromatic, nitrooxide, alkenes, aryls, polines are photoreactive, and if they are present in your molecule, there are chances of photodegradation of your compound. Normally, we have to expose our drug in a solid form in a petri dish, open petri dish, where we have to expose for a 1.2 million lux hour. Lux meters are available, so that can help you to find out the quantity of light that a sample has been exposed. This much exposure is enough, and then you should carry out analysis of your sample. So yes, so these four conditions by which we can carry out analysis of our compound. This is another combination drug, montelukast and bilastine, where the separation has been achieved having more than 2.2 RF value, and their degradations were also carried out. See, when a single drug is there, to perform stability study is easier, but when you are performing stability studies for a combination, it is somewhat difficult because a degradation product for both the compound will get formed, and we have to carry out the separation of our drug peak with the degradation peak of both the compound. And for that, it is necessary to have RF value above zero point 0.2 for both the drug. Otherwise, the compound which cannot be separated will merge with your drug spot. Okay, and this is the 3D densitogram of the same combination which has been separated, where the calibration curve was taken. Again, there was a slight fluctuation in the RF value because of the smiling effect, as the chamber was not properly saturated. Fine. So that is about the force degradation studies and the steps that we should consider, or we should take care while developing an Hptlc method. I think I'll not go with the validation aspect, because there is a totally new topic and a new concept which requires more time. But the basic kind of studies that we normally carry out is the accuracy study, where spiking a sample in a pre-analyzed formulation is being carried out, where at a 50%, 150%, and 100%, your standard samples are spiked in a pre-analyzed sample, and the recovery of the sample is being determined. Precision study, intra and inter-day studies. Along with that, repeatability studies are also to be carried out. Okay, where injection repeatability study, the same concentration of compound, same volume of compound to be injected on a plate. Okay, and whether you are getting a reproducible result or not, that is to be checked. And second is scanner repeatability study. Same spot has to be scanned for 6 times to check the reproducibility of the result. So 2 types of repeatability studies should be preferred. You can carry out an intermediate precision on a different days with a different analyst and different equipment. And you can go with a reproducibility studies where inter-laboratory studies should be carried out. You should show linearity, and where correlation coefficient, intercept, and slope, these are the important parameters. And normally the range for the linearity should be 80 to 120% of the test concentration. Even you can go beyond that also. This is the minimum range that should be kept for a linearity. Robustness plays an important role in Hptlc method development, where various parameters that can influence, and we should carry out deliberate changes in certain parameters like the composition of the mobile phase, chemicals of different grades, chamber of different dimensions. Okay, even effect of pH and temperature and chamber saturation time must also be checked to prove the robustness of the method. It is observed that when we are performing a robustness study, analysts are doing deliberate changes which are too large. Like suppose your chamber saturation time is 30 minutes, and if you are keeping it 40 and 20, it's a very large difference, like 20% of the difference that you are imparting, and obviously your result will vary. So these deliberate changes should be minimum. Less than 10% of the changes should be allowed. Okay, it should not be beyond 10%. Similarly, you can find out a detection limit and a quantitation limit. Normally we use this equation 3.3 sigma upon slope, but my advice is, instead of going with this equation, you should plot a calibration curve in a probable detection limit range. Suppose my detection limit is 0.1 microgram per ml, then I should plot a graph in this range, like from 0.05 to 0.2, and then I should check the variability of the data, and that data should be used to find out the detection limit and quantitation limit. Okay, so that is how the analysis can be performed. Specificity, yes, in presence of different analyte, what kind of interferences that is being observed in my method, that is to be checked. How to select excipients? Normally patents are available, so we can take a base of a patent, and whatever the excipients that have been taken in the patent for the formulation, the same excipient should be used, which can justify your specificity data. Even impurities, degradants can also be used to prove the specificity of the method, so that your band, your spot is not being interfered by impurities, degradants, or excipients which are present. Fine. Thank you so much. Any questions from your side? Any questions from the participant?
Any question?
I hope I've tried to cover briefly the aspect of stability studies. I have not touched validation because it will take a lot of time and which is beyond the scope of this presentation. So I've just touched the validation aspect.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable and informative knowledge and time with us. Sir, you cover all the basic approaches of Hptlc as well as the force degradation study through example very beautifully. I hope all the participants must have benefited from your talk, especially those who are involved in the research and work with analytical method development by using Hptlc. On behalf of Parul University, kindly accept e-certificate as a token of love and gratitude. Just a
Thank
minute,
you.
sir.
Thank you so much, madam. And yes, there are many concepts which still needs many more justification. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again on behalf of Parul University.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much.
you for that.